In life, the heaviest burdens we carry are not physical objects like bags or responsibilities, but the emotional and mental weights we hold in our hearts, painful memories, regrets, worries, and fears. These unseen burdens often weigh us down far more than anything tangible ever could. The story begins with a young monk who had recently joined a monastery. Despite living in a peaceful and quiet environment, he could not find inner peace. His heart and mind were still haunted by a troubled past. Family conflicts, childhood trauma, disappointments, and painful experiences that refused to fade away. These emotional scars followed him into the monastery, making him feel unsettled even in the most serene surroundings. He found himself constantly overthinking and overanalyzing everything. Even simple situations seemed complicated. His mind was never at rest. It replayed past events over and over, dragging him back into emotional suffering. He also worried about the present and the future, creating a mental storm that left him exhausted and anxious. Despite having left behind the chaos of the outside world, he carried that chaos with him internally. This highlights a powerful truth. Our suffering is not always caused by our external circumstances, but by the burdens we choose to carry inside. We may change our environment, but if we do not address what lies within, peace will remain elusive. The young monk's experience shows that emotional and mental baggage can feel just as real and far more exhausting than any physical weight. Until we recognize and release what no longer serves us, we will continue to feel trapped. The key to freedom and lightness lies not in escaping the world, but in letting go of what is holding us back inside. Despite his efforts to find peace in the monastery, the young monk eventually reached his breaking point. The weight of his thoughts, regrets, and painful memories became too overwhelming to bear. Every moment felt clouded by the past, and his mind refused to rest. Unable to carry on in silence any longer, he approached his master and spoke from the heart. "Master," he said, "I am exhausted. My past follows me everywhere. I think constantly about what happened long ago, about what is happening now. My mind won't let me be. I cannot find peace. Please tell me what to do." The master listened patiently, then smiled gently. Instead of giving a direct answer, he invited the young monk to follow him. Curious and desperate, the young monk walked alongside his master as they stepped outside the monastery. The master pointed to a distant hill where a small hut stood silhouetted against the sky. "Do you see that hut on the mountaintop?" he asked. "An old monk lives there, the most senior among us. He left the monastery years ago to meditate in solitude. If there's anyone who can guide you, it is him." Hope sparked in the young monk's heart. "May I go now?" he asked eagerly. "I don't want to wait any longer." The master nodded with understanding, and the young monk set off immediately. With nothing but his determination, he climbed down the monastery hill and began the long journey toward the distant mountain. Though he didn't know exactly what awaited him, he carried a deep hope that this journey would lead him to clarity and finally to peace. Little did he know, the journey itself would become the beginning of the answer he was seeking. The young monk set off immediately, filled with hope and determination. He believed that the old monk on the mountaintop would finally provide the peace and clarity he had long been searching for. The path was steep and rugged, but his desire to be free from his inner torment gave him strength. After a long and tiring climb, he finally arrived at the small hut. There, the old monk sat deep in meditation, completely still, radiating a sense of calm. The young monk waited respectfully. When the old monk slowly opened his eyes, the young monk bowed deeply and spoke with sincerity. "Master, please help me," he said. "My mind is full of painful memories. I cannot escape the past. It follows me everywhere, and I suffer constantly. I want to be free." The old monk smiled kindly and nodded. "I will help you," he said, "but first let us go to the village below. A disciple has invited us for our midday meal." The young monk agreed, feeling hopeful. Just as they were about to leave, the old monk picked up a large, heavy rock and placed it in front of him. "Carry this with you," the old monk instructed. Though puzzled, the young monk obeyed. He lifted the heavy rock onto his shoulder and followed the old monk down the mountain. At first, he thought the rock might be symbolic, part of the lesson, so he carried it with determination, unaware that this simple act would soon reveal a profound truth. As they descended the mountain, the young monk carried the heavy rock on his shoulder. At first, he believed it had some hidden spiritual meaning, so he bore the weight with determination. However, the path was steep and uneven. Before long, his arms ached, his legs shook, and sweat poured down his face. Each step became more painful than the last. Meanwhile, the old monk walked ahead with ease, unburdened and calm. The young monk wanted to let go of the rock, but a voice in his mind held him back. What if this is part of the lesson? I must endure it. So, he continued, silently suffering. By the time they reached the bottom of the mountain, he was completely exhausted. His body trembled, and he could barely stand. Gasping for breath, he looked at the old monk, who was resting peacefully under a tree. "Master," he cried out, "this rock has made my journey miserable. Please tell me the lesson." The old monk simply smiled and said, "Then why didn't you drop it?" In that moment, the young monk was stunned, realizing he had chosen to suffer, even when he could have let go. The young monk stood in silence, frozen by the old monk's simple question. "Why didn't you drop it?" He hesitated, then said, "But you told me to carry it." The old monk smiled gently. "I told you to pick it up. I never said you had to carry it the entire way. You chose to hold on to it, even when it began to hurt you. You believed it was necessary to suffer." In that moment, the young monk's eyes widened with realization. The rock had become a metaphor for his past, his painful memories, regrets, and emotional burdens. Just as he had carried the stone when he didn't have to, he had also been carrying his inner pain for far too long, believing, wrongly, that it was something he had to endure. The old monk continued, "Life is like this journey. The burdens we carry in our minds and hearts, our fears, regrets, old wounds, are like that rock. We think we must carry them forever, but the truth is, we have the power to let them go at any moment. The suffering remains only because we refuse to release it." Tears welled up in the young monk's eyes. Without hesitation, he dropped the rock to the ground. The sound of it hitting the earth was loud, but what he felt was silence, an inner stillness he had not known in years. Instantly, a sense of lightness washed over him, not just physically, but spiritually. It felt as though a great weight had been lifted from his soul. The old monk placed a comforting hand on his shoulder and said, "The past is gone. The only thing keeping it alive is your attachment to it. Let it go, and peace will come." That day, the young monk received the greatest lesson of his life. Freedom does not come from holding on. True peace comes from the courage to let go. As the young monk stood there, tears in his eyes and the rock now lying at his feet, he felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Relief, not just in his tired body, but deep within his soul. It was as if years of emotional weight had suddenly vanished. For the first time, he understood what it meant to let go, truly and completely. The old monk, still calm and compassionate, looked at him and said, "You see, peace was never far away. It was always within you. But as long as you carry what no longer serves you, peace cannot enter. The past is already gone. It has no power unless you keep bringing it back." The young monk realized that he had been his own jailer, holding himself captive with memories, guilt and sorrow that no longer had any place in his present. All along, he had believed that enduring the pain was part of life's path. But now he knew the truth. Freedom isn't found through resistance, but through release. He had walked a difficult road carrying a burden he didn't have to bear. And by simply choosing to put it down, everything changed. That day, the lesson became clear, not just as a teaching, but as a lived experience. Letting go is not weakness. It is strength, it is wisdom, it is freedom. From that moment on, the young monk walked lighter, both in body and spirit. He returned to the monastery not only with answers, but with a renewed heart, ready to live fully in the present, unchained from the past. The young monk's journey teaches us a timeless and powerful truth. We often carry the weight of our past far longer than we need to. Painful memories, regrets, disappointments, and worries can become like heavy stones we refuse to put down, believing that holding on somehow gives them meaning or that we must carry them as part of our identity. But the reality is simple. The past only has power over us if we keep holding on to it. Just like the rock the young monk carried, our emotional burdens weigh us down. Not because they must, but because we choose not to release them. Many of us live our lives trapped in cycles of overthinking, blame, guilt, and sorrow. We convince ourselves that suffering is necessary, that letting go means forgetting or giving up. But letting go is not about denial. It's about freedom. It's about making space for peace, clarity, and joy. The moment we choose to let go of what no longer serves us, we begin to heal. Life becomes lighter, more peaceful, and more beautiful. It doesn't mean the pain never existed. It means it no longer controls us. As the old monk said, the past is gone. The only thing keeping it alive is you. Letting go is an act of courage. It's a decision to stop suffering and start living. And in that decision, we discover one of life's greatest truths. Real peace begins the moment we finally put down the weight we were never meant to carry